Hey guys, welcome to the Big Blue United podcast. My name is TJ. I'm here with Dan and Colin, here to talk some NFL draft and whatever else is going on in the universe. What's up with you guys? How you been?
Good.
My world is the draft. That's all I do.
That's it?
Yep.
You've disowned your kids, divorced your wife, and devoted all your time to worshiping Mel Kiper.
Oh,
Do you have
no,
the hair? Are you going to get the hair?
I'm the anti-Mel Kiper.
Anti-Mel Kiper, sorry.
In order to take his monopoly over the thing down, I needed to divorce myself from my family and dedicate all my time to the draft.
I think Mel is fully off. He's off. I don't even consider him in this whole scheme anymore. I don't think his opinion matters.
I'd love to see what his percentage of correct picks was, or or guys who developed into being decent players that he liked. It's probably pretty small, but I'd imagine most people who predict draft stuff that really don't know anything. Even the guys who get paid, millions of dollars a year to draft the guys don't really even know what they're doing.
Yeah, I think Mel Kiper just had first mover advantage, and he was the first, analyst guy that just studied the draft to do it 30 years ago, and he looked crazy. And they're sure, you can come on.
Yeah.
And now they have a lot of people that do it.
Why hasn't he had sponsorships from Aquanet or whatever he uses in his hair?
Yeah, what does he use? It's probably some old school spray.
Probably some something about Mary stuff.
Exactly. But speaking of sponsorships, guys, don't forget to check out butcherbox.com for all your meat needs. Meat needs? What's a better way to say that? We're not actually. I'm just we don't need to do ButcherBox again. We've done them so many times, but
we just
for lack of a sponsor, I like to say, order some meat. Do you think Michael Penix orders meat?
Would it be called animal byproducts or animal meats, animal foods?
I don't know. Anyway,
all meats are animal meats unless you get.
This is the worst. This is the worst promo that was ever done in a podcast of all time. Anyway, don't forget to follow Ian at Facebook, Twitter, Instagram at Big Blue United. You follow us on Twitter at BBU Podboss with a Z, just to make sure you know when the new podcasts are coming out. Before we go draft, guys, let's talk a little news here. We signed a couple guys. Maybe you want to touch on Darren Waller, Drew Lock for a second. In terms of the signings, we got halfback Dante Miller, wide receiver Miles Boykin, who I thought was an NBA player, but he's tall enough to be an NBA player, but he's just a bad wide receiver. And then obviously we re-signed Isaiah Simmons, which I think all of us are happy about. Any thoughts on these moves at all? Anything, glaring at you, staring at you?
I think Colin and I probably really liked Miles Boykin 6 years ago or whatever when he was at Notre Dame. And wasn't, I guess he probably went in the second round. He didn't go in the first round, but he was third. He didn't win the third. That was probably the biggest red flag because his measurables were insane, right?
Yeah, I mean, hey, 38 catches in 6 seasons. That's something to really be excited about.
Yeah,
slow and steady.
I think he's had 5 catches in the last 3 seasons or something like that.
Oh man.
My guess is they needed a tall guy to play wide receiver in training camp, so that's why he's on the team.
Maybe it could be a gunner. And kickoff or
that
doesn't matter anymore.
I think he'll probably be unemployed. Would be my guess.
Yeah, you're probably right.
I am really happy about the Isaiah Simmons thing. I think he's going to do better in this defense. That's more traditional defense, and I like to see him kind of develop into a one position player instead of sort of being the Wink Martindale. Put him everywhere, and he's not an every down guy. He's not even, every series guy necessarily. I think he's got a lot of talent. I know we liked him when he came out. We liked him on the team last year. So I hope, he develops into something instead of just some amorphous defensive player.
Well, that one tweet from Art Stapleton that I sent to you guys was very interesting because it's not even really something I thought of prior to reading that, of the idea that, is it possible he could be considered a safety as a primary position, which is kind of sweet to think about because I mentioned likening him to Deion Grant on steroids of 10 years ago when we had him in the last Super Bowl run as that third safety, as kind of like a linebacker safety hybrid kind of thing. I mean, that screams him, especially covering any tight end over the middle, which we've been inept to do for the last 35 years. So it would be kind of cool to have someone to do that. Also, Dan, not to go back to what we were just talking about, but we already have a gunner on the special teams.
His name's Gunner.
Yeah.
It's good.
Oh wow.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
the
my
safety
jokes are
concept for the safety concept for Simmons is interesting. I guess who would be like the only analogy for someone that big playing safety, like Kyle Hamilton on the Ravens, but he's way more. He's probably athletic, and
Simmons is athletic. I just think Hamilton's more refined. Yeah.
I can't imagine Simmons being able to like open his hips and like have that quick twitch stuff to the same level as
you know where I want to see him. I want to see him off the edge.
Player.
Yeah. Send him off the edge,
or just put him like a monster back.
Loose as a pass rusher. Yeah, something like that. I either way. I think it could. Either way, I think we all agree it's a good sounding. Good to bring this guy back. Hyper athletic.
I mean, definitely more of the linebacker edge of the safety linebacker kind of pairing.
Box safety, not necessarily coverage sort of guy. Yeah. I mean, I think I think you're right, Dan, about his coverage skills are probably not what you'd look for in a modern NFL safety, but he does have some skills, in the run game from that position. Not that that's super important anymore.
Yeah.
But anyway, the last guy, Dante Miller, halfback. I honestly know nothing about him. Obviously Saquon's gone. Colin, tell us about Dante Miller.
Well, I mean, from what I gather, he had a really tough upbringing. Like he was. What?
How about as a football player?
Yeah. No, I want to start from like the article I read. No, because it builds up to it.
Yeah,
I mean, he just like had it really hard. He was in and out of foster homes. Like it was a bad scene. If you want to read up on him, you can. But it really developed him as a person and as a player. And I think it goes to show, hard work can pay off to people who don't have everything handed to them growing up. And, he's a smart dude. He went to Columbia. He was there for a couple of seasons or so. And then he still had an eligibility. So he went to South Carolina and he didn't really play a lot. He probably could have, but there was, fate kind of goes one way or the other, and he barely had any carries. But his physical, attributes are insane. He ran a 4.27 at the pro day. I think he had the most reps on the bench for running back in
what do you know what his height and weight?
It's 5'10", 210 or something like that.
That nice chode build is great for running back.
4.27 straight ahead running. Just kind of. Here's the biggest thing that I read.
And he's never played in the NFL, right? But he's not a rookie, but he's a free agent. Like, what?
It's one of those cool loopholes where because he wasn't considered for the draft because of some weird, I forgot what the rule was. The fact that he didn't get enough carries or something like that. It's something to do with his lack of red shirt situation. It was very convoluted. I'd have to read it again, but because of that, he's able to sign early, and he probably has an agent that was just like, you're not going to get drafted. You might as well get on a team now. And a bunch of teams were talking to him too. So what I think is very interesting about this signing is not so much him as a running back, but because of the kickoff changing its rules to this new setup of the 10 yards from each team facing each other when it actually starts, he's fast as hell and he's a running back. Let him be a running back out there, basically. Hopefully he can catch. It's worth a shot,
Interesting.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, I guess you're right, man. I guess I didn't really think about how it becomes more of like a running back position as a kick returner.
Kind of.
At this point. Because you're basically, rushing through blockers, making a lane for you with dudes right in front of your face.
Like you need to be less of the typical kick returner of yesteryear. Like you just need to be able to catch the ball, and then anything else is like, I don't know. You basically can have a different build and a different style to play this position now.
Yeah, that's a good point. I didn't really think about that. Let's move on. Darren Waller, I just want to say the one quote. Someone asked him if he would let the Giants know if he's going to retire before the draft. His response, that would be ideal, but I also don't want to put that on myself. Thoughts?
What a baby.
If he cared about anybody but himself, which I doubt he does, he would just, bow out. If you have 1 foot out the league and thinking about it, get the hell out.
Yeah,
I'm with you.
Shows lack of character, in my opinion. But yeah, it's not what you want to hear as a fan. Just no. I guess it also helps that no one really wants him back. So everyone is ultra quick to get on his case.
You can't say you don't want him back. The Giants are better with him on the team despite his injuries. I mean, I'd rather have him on the team than not. We did spend a 3rd-round pick to get him, so if we can get 2 years out of him, I think that's worth something to me. I do hope he comes back. I do think he will come back. But Colin, I do have to sort of agree that.
Do you think he's waiting to see who quarterback is?
Maybe.
No, man. He might. He doesn't have that Strahan, sort of luxury that we gave Strahan his last year, where he didn't go to training camp. Darren Waller's not a guy that we revere or anything like that, but he is the best tight end on the roster at the current moment.
Speaking of waiting to see what the quarterback situation is going to be, did you guys see, just a little bit of a segue here, what Malik Neighbors said about talking to the Giants?
Yeah.
No.
You say it, Colin.
Basically, he was just like, oh, yeah, I mean, I like talking to them. They're great to, talk scheme and stuff like that. I'm paraphrasing, of course, in so many words. But, they probably should have a quarterback that can throw to me.
Did he actually really say that?
He's like, he said something to that effect, and he's like, and I know they're gonna figure it out. I trust them to make sure they have someone that can get me the ball.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, it's a foregone conclusion, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's obvious.
I know. I did read that there's some character concerns with him, but whatever. I don't. Wide receivers are all like this. I don't really put vest too much interest into the diva wide receiver thing, because there's been a million dudes who've had great careers, who've had mild character issues coming out of the draft, and dudes like T.O. who are just absolutely batshit fucking crazy, who have had great careers.
Yeah,
I had a wide receiver question for the draft for you guys. Actually, we'll probably get into it in a second.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll get there. Last thing I want to talk about is Drew Lock, just because I guess his contract was underreported. 1 year, $5 million, could be $8 million based on playing time. Do you think this predicates, what the training camp battle might look like?
Yes, I think that is. I'm very happy that info came out now and not after the draft, because it's just. I mean, I guess it doesn't matter, but it's very interesting to know that it wasn't just such a cut and dry deal of just here you go, cheap deal, prove it. Really interesting that it almost identically mirrors Tyrod's deal when he was with us and when he's with the Jets. So that's kind of interesting to me.
I think it clearly shows that the Giant brought more to the bargaining table than we might have thought previously, which would mean that they made it clear to Drew Lock, who had other options, that he was going to have a real chance to make that incentive real by playing.
Absolutely.
So I think, so a lot of times they say it's, open competition, start a training camp, but, everyone knows who's going to be the starters. I think this is a true, if Daniel Jones can even practice, which, who knows what his capacity would be, but it's a true open slot on the team, which is pretty cool.
Exciting.
Yeah.
I mean, even without bringing a quarterback in from the draft, it's exciting to know that they're actually treating it like a competition.
Yeah.
What if Daniel Jones can't start? Drew Lock has to start the season, and he plays well. Does Daniel Jones ever get back in?
No, I wouldn't. I mean, obviously, that's where we stand. But I guess taking a step back. No, I don't think so. I mean, it would have been interesting to see if they put.
Yeah. No. But taking a step back, no.
Well, take a step back, but no as well.
Yeah, no. Bottom line, no. But what would have happened if he got healthy in time this season and say Tyrod didn't get injured and Tyrod is playing at his level? I think you can.
I think last year they still would have let him play.
They would have bench Tyrod.
They would have let Jones play, yeah, because they just signed into that deal. They just came off the playoff win. I think last year you had to let Jones play. I think next year, the less he plays, the better.
Which is kind of a bummer in the fact that it would take, in this case, a severe injury for them to basically be like, all right, we have to move on. I almost would have rathered him continue to play and play like absolute dog shit for all of the season, to really drive it home that they wanted to go somewhere else.
Agreed.
Yeah, you want to like be able to tell those Daniel Jones stands like,
yeah, it's not even about Daniel Jones. It's about those guys.
He never got a shot, man, and he's not. They let him go. They never even had a shot.
No one gave him any weapons. He never had any weapons.
Yeah, what kind of line has he had for the last 6 years, man? Which is true, but that's besides the point.
Yeah, whatever. A lot of people have bad lines and still good quarterbacks. Let's jump into the draft, guys. Let's just talk about the first 3 picks this week. We'll do the remainder of the draft in a future pod. I want to know, guys, basically, we're going to talk quarterback. Let's talk first round pick, number 6. I really want to know, like, what is, in your opinion, the best case scenario, what you think will actually happen, and what the worst case scenario for you would be. Either you guys want to start. I'm just curious what your thoughts are there.
I think all right, there's 2 ways of looking at it. What I absolutely want to happen and what I actually think is going to happen are different in this case. I would be so damn surprised if we actually traded up to 3 or 4. I really would. As much as I think that's a great call and like they could probably do it and not lose a ridiculous amount of
what do you think that would take?
I mean definitely two first starters this year and next year. And then likely, and this all depends on whether or not whoever we trade, whether it's Patriots or Arizona, if they are okay with picks from this draft or next year's draft. Because honestly, kick it down the road, I'd be okay giving them a first this year, first next year, and maybe like a second and a fourth next year.
I can see that being reasonable.
Yeah, I think that is kind of, which, if you think about it, it's not that bad to move up to like your forever quarterback, if you will.
Yeah.
Like that,
I would be fine with that, especially if it's next year's second, because I do think, I guess the trend is that there's been a lot more viable wide receivers in the past few years. But I do think there's a lot of nice receivers available in the second round this year. And it'd be great to pair them with a quarterback if we're drafting a quarterback this year. So if they would take next year's second, that'd be ideal. I do think they might have to offer this year's second, this year's first, this year's second, next year's first. But that should get you to 3.
Yeah.
If the Pats are cool with Jacoby Brissett, like that's a nice haul for them staying at 3 or moving off 3 to 6. They're still going to have their choice of wide receiver.
I still think we're staying at 6. Ultimately,
I'm just saying if you're at 3 and the first 2 picks are Caleb, obviously, and then Drake May goes before Jane Daniels, do you want to move up to 3 for Jane Daniels? Because personally, I like Drake May better. I mean, I like them both, but is there a particular guy you like more that, like, if one of them's off the board, you wouldn't want to trade up to 3, 4, or either those guys like kind of 1A, 1B for you after Williams, or I should say 2A, 2B.
They're right together for me personally.
Jaden and Drake are
I'd interchange them and be okay with whoever.
I would zero hesitation trade up for Drake May. I think that's a slam dunk. There's just a lot of different stuff about Jaden Daniels that makes me less certain about him. Besides the physical, slightness. I mean, we can get into it. I guess now is a perfect time. But he played on a stacked team that year. The wide receivers on that team, both Thomas and Neighbors. The offensive line was one of the best offensive lines in the SEC. And it was his 5th season. His previous years of production, no one really talks about, but they were nothing near these insane numbers he put up this season. Not to say that that's not relevant and important. But people that know more than me, they look at his skills. He's obviously got the X factor of being fast, but some of the true quarterbacking skills people don't seem that high on. He does some things great, but I think the upside of the raw talent of Drake May makes it a no-brainer. Jaden Daniels, it's a little less, but I mean, I guess ultimately, if it's up to me, I want a quarterback so bad, I wouldn't be upset if they did it.
The reason that I'm cool with 1 and 1A with both of them is the Dable factor.
2 and 2A. Yeah, like if
2A,
Dable believes in him, then you're like, oh, if Dable sees something in him, then like that's exciting because especially
exactly like if this was 2018 and we're staring Daniel Jones's dumb face in our own faces. No, I wouldn't like, and if it was a similar scenario, I would not think this way at all. But because I feel like there's not leeway, but like you have such a smart and skillful quarterback developer in Dable that you can take the lesser qualities of a 2B or 2A rather, and, look at them at the same line. I mean, that's putting a lot of faith in Dable, but I feel like I really want to see him develop someone for us. And that's why I've been also entertaining the idea of waiting until later in the draft too, because, it's not ideal. I don't want that. But if the pieces fall as they will, and you end up going with a Penix in 2 or, Spencer Rattler or whatever, it's on the table, when in the past it wouldn't be at all. The
Tommy DeVito factor. If you could do with Tommy DeVito, what we could do with a guy with actual first, second round skill.
Exactly.
Yeah.
What I want to know what your opinion on JJ McCarthy. Oh, I could tell you about my little thing here. I'm kind of with you, Dan. To me, Jaden Daniels I'm actually kind of in between what you guys both said, just because I am a big Drake May fan. I think Drake May fits in with the Giants, and I think he'd be, has all the measurables and to me the mental acuity, more importantly, to be an NFL quarterback. Jaden Daniels, I think, has those things too. I do agree with you, Dan, that there is a bit of an X factor with him, but on the other side, what Colin said, I do think Dable, what he did with Josh Allen, they do have similar skill sets. Josh Allen's a bit of a bigger guy, but they do, have some of the similar tendencies, I should say. If Drake May's there at 3, I trade up. If Jaden Daniels is there at 3, I'm not sure if I trade up. I don't know. I don't know if I do it or not. But I do want to ask you guys about JJ McCarthy. If you're at 6 and he's available, do you take him or no?
So you said earlier today that you wouldn't at 6.
I would not.
I would. I think I would, just because I don't know. That Dable and Shane are looking for their quarterback in this draft. And if he's on the list of what they can mold into their quarterback, they're kind of feeling like they're sitting pretty, and they didn't even have to move or lose any draft capital at all. And you can just get your, not necessarily day one starter, but possibly. So would it be my favorite thing in the world? No. Would I hate it? Absolutely not.
Yeah, would it be my favorite? Wouldn't hate it. If they did it, I would get very excited to see what they do with him. I similarly to Colin, like I feel like such a homer doing it, but it's the Dable factor, because I think we all really buy in that he's such a QB guru and is able to understand what he's got and how to get the most out of him. And the thing with JJ McCarthy is everything you hear about him is basically how amazing is it everything but throwing in his college career, because there's not much to talk about. So it's his leadership, it's his way he processes, it's all the stuff that us as novices at least can't discern or won't understand. So, not ecstatic. It's not like getting Drake May at 6, but the upside is there for him as well. He's got the 3-cone drill at the combine was interesting. He ran it, I think, like 3rd fastest or 4th fastest in the combine. He's shown athletic ability. He's shown the ability to throw over the middle, which a lot of quarterbacks this draft haven't. And he's shown the guts to make some dangerous throws when he does. It's just his ability to do that at a higher volume, which we have not seen.
And not to mention the fact that because he's been talked up like crazy, that there are going to be teams that want him and will offer us.
It would be hilarious, though, if this was just a unified, just big smoke screen that like everyone's piling on. Harbaugh was so into him, and then all the other coaches are just like, yeah, we'll just boost this guy's value like crazy, and no one's going to draft him in the 1st round.
I mean, well, that's what I mean.
Do you think there's a chance Penix gets drafted before JJ McCarthy?
No, only because of the injury history that we talked about. I think that's possible.
People are, yeah.
Oh,
I don't know.
I've seen rankings where Penix is ranked above McCarthy and Nix, so I think actually will both get picked before Penix. But
yeah, Bo Nix, I'm so out on, and people still bring him up as like like get him at the level.
Well, thank you, Dan. Tell me right now why you're out on him. And this is just because I want to know your answer.
Oh, I mean, it would be amalgamation of anything I've heard from like the 4 different draft podcasts I listened to about what those guys that have been watching tape have said. To me, he's probably a nice backup quarterback in the league. That can win you spots. I think he's successful in a very specific system. Everyone said that he needs to play like in a Shanahan style offense and sort of dip and dunk here and there. It's fine. He's probably like a game manager type. He doesn't have a huge arm. I don't know about his athletic ability. I don't think it's too incredible, but I'd rather a more dynamic, game changing quarterback that can beat ultimately someone like Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen. I don't think Bo Nix is ever going to be a quarterback that is going to elevate your team to that level. He's going to be a piece that just doesn't drop the ball.
And this is why I'm sort of out on Mel Kiper right now, because his latest mock draft has us getting Malik Neighbors at 6 and then trading back into the first for Bo Nix, which is like, no, guy, I don't think that's it. I don't think that's it at all.
I'd rather Joe Milton.
One more question about the I was gonna say I'll surprise you guys with my second round choice here, but before I move on to the second round or later guys in Penix, you're sitting at 6.
We got to talk about other options. Yeah.
Wait.
Well, I'm saying
we're officially calling him Penix.
Penix.
Just say Penix, please.
No, I like Penix.
Come on, what are the chances? Imagine he comes on the Giants.
You're sitting at pick 6. JJ McCarthy and Marvin Harrison Jr. are both on the board. Who do you pick?
That's really hard.
I'm going wide receiver in this situation.
I don't think that's what Dable would want to do.
I think without knowing their conviction, I do think there's a lot to the storyline of if they draft a quarterback that buys them another 3 years at least. Unless their relationship with Mara is so good. I mean, I guess no one can be mad at them for drafting Marvin Harrison Jr., but it doesn't. I guess then they have to be a 500 team immediately with Drew Lock as their quarterback. It's not an easy road.
That's possible.
This scenario right here is exactly how you trade back into the first and get Penix. That's how that happens right there.
I just can't see a scenario when you have best player available, maybe the second best, first best player, or the best player in the entire draft, on a big board, and it's a huge need. Best player available at a huge need at number 6, a guy that you're going to have on your team for a decade, and he's going to perform at a high level. And I think, there's obviously nothing, that's like a can't miss pick, but
I wouldn't be mad about it. That's for sure.
If there's anything close to it, it's this. I mean, I don't think you could ignore that.
It's my personal desire to get away from Daniel Jones as far as possible. Is what's really driving the confusion. I mean, getting Marvin Harrison Jr. with the 6th pick is amazing. This brings me to another question, though. There's a lot of talk this year about how great these 3 wide receivers are, Dunze, Neighbors, and Harrison Jr., and maybe like the gap isn't as great between them as you think. And it's, some people have Neighbors over Marvin Harrison, even a Dunze occasionally I've seen. So essentially, like saying they are all equally good, everyone's also identified they're good in different ways. Just from a curiosity standpoint, saying they're all equally good, which player's style or skill set do you guys prefer, in a world where, it's not like Marvin Harrison Jr. has been the most talked about wide receiver in forever and has like the best numbers ever. So just like skill, like what's the most exciting or fun kind of wide receiver you guys want?
Honestly, I just like Harrison more because he's 6'4" and Neighbors is 6 feet. I just think they have, similar skills. They're both, in my opinion, one of the better wide receiver prospects to come out in the last few years. I think they're both going to be successful. In my mind, I'd rather have the taller guy. That's where I'm at.
Okay.
So
like that style, like you'd rather like a Plexico Burris style versus a, I don't know, Odell Beckham style.
I think there's plenty of guys that are on the smaller side on the Giants that can perform. I love Wandale. I think Jalen Hyatt is, not
I don't
smaller,
think 6
but,
feet small for a wide receiver.
No.
Yeah, I mean, but 6'4". I mean, when you look at some of the cornerbacks coming out now, a guy I love in the second round, TJ Tampa, 6'2". I mean, I'm just saying.
Tampa Junior,
the height, Tampa. the speed, height, route running. You can run every route. The lineage. I just love the guy. I love Neighbors too, but I think Harrison Jr. is the best.
Well, I mean, the question wasn't so much which one would you choose. It's like which style do you like the best. So basically, I would say I like Neighbors the best because he has the separation and the after catch stuff, and I feel like that's like just super exciting, and like that's my favorite thing to watch in the NFL is those guys that get the ball in their hand and then like wild stuff happens.
Mm-hmm. I mean, like Kadarius Toney had a better draft rating than Malik Neighbors did based upon the factors you just indicated.
I still think Kadarius Toney is one of the most talented wide receivers in the NFL. He's just insane.
Sure. I mean, I'd rather have a guy who's going to, have a higher contested catch rate, especially considering
Neighbors
going into the season.
Catches.
Well, Harrison's better. I looked it up in PFF.
Yeah, but anyway, they're different styles.
I'm just saying, with the quarterback play, I think on the Giants you need someone who has a wingspan and is a little better at the contested catches.
Okay, fair enough.
I mean, considering who is in the quarterback room right now with their ineptitude of accurate passing as a go-to, I mean, yes, that certainly makes sense. I think there's like an in-between, like you said, Dan.
Dunze.
Well, yes, exactly. He is exactly in between, and I wouldn't be opposed to him either. I mean, let's talk about him as well. He's fast and he's 6'2", 210. Yeah. Like he's literally in between.
And based on that chart we saw, the passing chart of
Penix,
it shows that he bailed him out a lot this season, and he's good at bailing out bad quarterbacking, which is something we most likely will have next year.
Always.
Yeah, I don't know. It's
just interesting. I just love the variety of elite tier running wide receivers that are going to go in the top 10 picks.
I mean, it's hard to ignore the fact that we really, truly never replaced Plexico, and Marvin would be the closest thing to that. I mean, granted, Plex was 6'5", and even like more of a wingspan of anybody, I feel like, ever catching the ball in the NFL. But like,
Harrison's got to be. He's a little faster though now.
Yeah, he's definitely more.
I thought Hakeem Nicks was great, by the way. I don't know. I feel like people sleep on Hakeem Nicks. He's a different wide receiver than Plexico.
He was 6'4",
clearly, but he took the top off defenses and made big plays time and time. I just never understood why his career was so short.
His foot injuries.
I know, but it was foot. It wasn't like a knee or an Achilles or.
I don't know. A lot of tread.
So weird. Yeah. So weird.
But I mean, I think.
All right. But before moving on from the first round, my last question would be: is there any other position besides quarterback or wide receiver they take in with their first pick at 6 that you wouldn't like jump off a cliff for?
No,
or like because they did.
No.
Well, I mean,
I'm sort of with you, TJ.
We're kind of looking at just positions at this point. We're going to get either the first or second best player in the draft at a position at 6.
Right, but like, what if they just, even if one of those wide receivers on the board or JJ McCarthy or something was still available, and then they took Joe Alt.
I'm going to take the forever hate nap if they take Joe Alt.
So would you call up? Why am I blanking on his name right now? He was on our team last year. He was formerly on our team, and I took the first hate nap ever.
Justin Pugh?
Yeah,
the first hate nap ever.
It was the first hate nap I ever took.
Justin Pugh was the first hate nap. Yeah.
Yeah, that was.
For the pick.
We picked him, and I instantly made myself go to sleep.
Amazing.
I can't go through life if the Giants don't pick something impactful. I understand that the offensive line is a big thing. We just spent a lot of money in free agency on it, and we've invested too many draft picks in it. I 100%. Can't possibly live another day if the Giants draft Joe Alt at 6.
Well,
however, if we trade down, I can trade down. We can trade down.
Yeah. One quick sidebar. Instead of, when someone pisses you off or disrespects you, instead of saying, "Oh, I'm just going to go kill myself," you should go say, "I'm just going to go make myself fall asleep."
Yeah.
That should be the new PC way, the new, woke. Wait a second, just make myself fall asleep forever.
I'm gonna go put myself down.
I'm gonna put myself down. What? I'm take a nap.
So would you still? Here's a good question too. In the same vein, because it makes no sense. I mean, it kind of does, but it kind of doesn't. In the same vein as Joe Alt, what if it was Brock Bowers at 6? Yep.
I think I'd
don't even say this shit, man.
Forever,
like I'm getting depressed when you say
Well, no, because like you need to let that sneak into your heart right now because we've been disappointed a lot.
It's never-ending disappointment, really.
Well, Brock Bowers, with the news of Waller being an absolute twat waffle, it's possible that this is a best player available depending on what happens with the first 5 picks. No trades, no one's offering us anything, and Joe just pulls the trigger on that, and all of a sudden we have a tight end in the first round.
I mean, I think that's a Dave Gettleman move. I think we would get out of it. I don't think we. That's what I'm telling myself. That's my internal story. Yeah.
Do you remember last year when they were talking about running, sort of like the Kansas City style offense where you have some smaller wide receivers and like, that big play sort of tight end? The scary part is that I could almost see this happening and it would be very painful to me, Colin. I don't want to see it. I don't want it to happen. But it might.
There is no scenario where all 3 wide receivers and all 4 quarterbacks will be gone before it gets to our pick.
That's true. That's exactly right. And that's why we don't have to talk about this right now.
Anyway, we spent a lot of time talking about the first pick. Maybe we'll just finish up with the second pick and call it a night.
Let me just, before we go to the second pick, I got one mock going up and we could just do it real quick. I'll ask you guys. It went, so it's sort of a weird one, but it went Drake May first, Caleb, Malik Neighbors, Marvin Harrison Jr., Brock Bowers. So Jaden Daniels, Joe Alt, JJ McCarthy, Roma Dunze.
Yeah, Daniels. Yeah. It would have to be Daniels.
I'll tell you what's available now at 2, if you want. Okay. Just to give you the ideas of names of players, then we could have the wide-ranging conversation. But this is the kind of stuff I think we typically see. Darius Robinson from Missouri, Zach Frazier. T'Vondre Sweat's here, but I'm sure he's dropping down boards right now.
Yeah, has to.
Yeah, what's up with him? Like, I saw he's, had the best year of any defensive interior in college football last year, and he seems to be falling to like the 4th round. Did he do something stupid?
DWI.
Yeah. Like twice over legal limit or something.
I like drinking. I like drinking too. Get him on the squad. What's the big deal?
You know what's funny in my head? I thought it's more dangerous that he's DWIing because of how huge he is. Like he's more dangerous in a car because he's 6'4", 365 pounds. I was like, oh man, like no one should drink and drive, but he's so big, he definitely shouldn't.
Yeah, I mean there's more of a chance of him killing somebody.
If he doesn't wear a seatbelt, he'll go through the windshield, go through the other person's windshield, and just scare them to death.
Exactly.
No cars hit each other at all. Yeah. He kills somebody himself.
He like hits a tree and his body flies out. And gets some poor pedestrian on the side of the road.
Yeah. Oh, that's not funny.
I mean, it is.
Yeah, it is.
Anyway,
very funny.
I think the thing that's exciting about him is that he's 6'4", 365, and they say he can rush the passer from the inside, which is
him and Dexy, man.
Yeah, the boner jams.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even think the Giants necessarily need a guy like that next to Dexter. I think they need, could just go with a big block who's going to take up space. But
I'm into stacking strengths.
Like
yeah,
dude, I'm with you. That's how the Giants won Super Bowls, was stacking the defensive line. I'm all for it all the time.
Here's a question for you. Do you think in this draft in particular, whoever is drafted in the first round will directly impact who they go for in the second round? I know that you don't think that happens, but I feel like it's possible this draft.
Well, yeah, if they're still trying to get a quarterback.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that'd be my only thing. If they're going to go Penix I've seen Rattler go in the second. I don't know if that's necessarily the spot where I would see him going. Yeah. I know. I think in the second round, Penix is a possibility. I wouldn't be upset if they did it. I know you guys think I'm high on him. I'm actually a little bit higher on Joe Milton from where's he?
At this
Tennessee.
Point.
Yeah. I mean, those
Joe Milton in what
measurables are
round?
wild.
Well,
Third round.
I mean, Joe Milton is that
Third or fourth round.
perfect scenario of Dable just having a field day.
That's
with
it,
development.
Colin. That's it. Anyway, but let's not jump ahead.
Yeah.
I think if Penix is there, I might take him. And I know that him being 24 is rough. His injury history is rough. I just think, when it comes down to it, like, the film is good. And when I say that, I mean the stuff that I've watched on YouTube or highlights on ESPN and stuff like that. I know Dan shared a passing chart with us today where Penix, can't really throw over the middle. He's got some problem areas. I know that his accuracy, isn't the best in the NFL, or I'm sorry, the best in college football. But I just think that he has those intangibles that we were discussing before that I think you take a flyer on a second round pick for a guy like that, and I would do it.
Yeah.
I don't think he'll last the second round though, but
yeah,
I think there's plenty
of
other
a second
positions
round pick. He becomes more interesting from the same qualifying factors we gave the other quarterbacks. Is if they believe enough, with Dable believes enough in him to take a second round pick on him, I'm interested to see what he's doing because his skill set is so much better than what we got to see him do with Tommy DeVito and an old Tyrod Taylor.
The inversion of this scenario is we get a quarterback at 6, someone who we really want. Do you think that means wide receiver in the second?
I would try to get, given where the talent lies in this draft, I think every team, sort of regardless of needs, should be trying to get a wide receiver or an offensive lineman within the first 3 rounds of this draft.
Yeah, that's what I think too.
And especially our team, because we need both.
Mm-hmm.
So I wouldn't be against getting someone on defense.
Yeah.
Me too. I love Keon Coleman there.
I'd want someone big. He's 6'4", 215. Troy Franklin, I think, is another guy there from Oregon, 6'3", 187. I know Xavier Worthy's another guy that's talked about there.
Yeah,
I would be happy. I'd be happy doubling up on wide receiver if we did. We needed that bad. I'm okay with it.
I just in the last week or so of powering through mock drafts, I've really gotten high on Malachi Corley.
Yeah, but he's more of a project piece.
I know. I don't know. He just he screams like an Anquan Bolden kind of situation to me, and I love that idea. The kind of Deebo Samuel archetype.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I mean, for sure that's what he could be, but I think it'd be again exciting to have him. But there's some more sure bets like Jalen Polk or I think I might even rather take a shot on Xavier Legette than Malachi Corley. Roman Wilson is more of a polished product.
Mm-hmm.
But they're also interesting, and there's a lot of them. That's why I think
I don't think I remember a draft ever being this deep.
Yeah.
So deep.
When does Keon Coleman went 33rd in this one? I'm with TJ though. I would be super stoked to have him. That slow 40 time might have tanked his stock a little bit, even though I think most people look at his production at Florida State. It was 4, 5, 6 or 4, 5.
Oh God! It's not that slow.
I think, or maybe it was even slower. But he was supposed to run a fast one, but then he did every other drill. Incredible.
Yeah. Sometimes game tape is all that really matters.
Yeah, 4.61.
Let's say
4.61 sort of slow.
Quarterback, wide receiver seems to be our number 1, number 2 sort of agreement so far. What else? I know cornerback, defensive interior, edge rusher. There's probably gonna be a couple guys at the top of the second round, or I guess we're a little bit lower than top. But
every time
Tampa is my number 1 for the second round.
So every time I was tempted to go into the defensive backfield, I decided to revert back to the old adage, starts in the trenches. I'm gonna pick a defensive lineman or an edge rusher over a cornerback that early. I think, you can pair a great line with a mediocre defensive backfield like we did in the last 2 Super Bowls for the most part. I mean, well, actually more so in 2011 than 2007. But, no offense to James Butler, but he was our safety in one of those Super Bowls, and he was not very good, but it was because we rushed the passer so well, it didn't matter. So yeah, would I like someone like TJ Tampa in the second round? Yes, but it feels like a luxury, you know?
Yeah.
Interesting.
No, I think we need a cornerback pretty badly.
For sure. Absolutely. I agree with that.
Yeah. But the way I've been approaching the second round is, again, trying to get the best offensive lineman or wide receiver generally, because I feel like that's where the highest caliber players are this draft. Mm-hmm. And usually almost always getting either a safety or cornerback with the third pick.
Yeah.
Again, it's been hard to say no to some of these D tackles, but I don't know. Our offense has been horrendous for far too long. We need some sort of excitement, some sort of blood. It'd be, I think Jalen Hyatt paired with someone more intermediate at wide receiver is going to be really cool. But there's no one that I think brings the edge you need to make a significant difference on either defense or offense outside of wide receiver in the second round.
Yeah.
I mean, I can see some defensive interior. Braden Fisk from Florida State, I think, would be a really good pickup.
I'd be psyched on him.
Yeah, I'd be psyched on him. I think, if I've seen Chop Robinson fall. I mean, if he's there at that point, I think.
Well, yeah, for sure.
I think there are other edge rushers as well that I think you could go for. I'm not against. I totally agree, Dan. Like, the offense has just been so bad, but I think having the defensive depth. And bringing in guys that can rush the passer or cover and help our passers succeed. It's gonna be lead to more success. I think.
Yeah.
Especially with a new defensive coordinator, give him some toys. Let him.
I guess I was assuming we had a quarterback in the first round. Like, if we drafted number one wide receiver, then I clearly that doesn't matter.
That's what I mean. I think the first round will dictate the rest of the draft, and I know that
it's hard to say.
It's easy to say, like, right sitting here like this, but I feel like in comparison to drafts recent past, it has to. I think their plan runs through the first round.
Yeah, I'd definitely go offensive line or cornerback if we have a wide receiver in the first round.
I'm with you. All right, let's kill it there. We've been going on for too long, but we'll get back next week or the week after. We'll talk about the next picks, and then before the draft, we'll do our annual mock.
Full mock.
Thank you guys for listening. Don't forget to check out butcherbox.com, Big Blue United, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, BBU Podboy with a Z on Twitter, and we'll see you next time.
Peace, Penixes.
My Penix.